£6 million. That's how much money Alfa Romeo spent to run two cars in the British Touring Car Championship 30 years ago. Today, that's the equivalent of 15 million quid. In 2024, the 20 cars that raced in the BTCC combined for running costs of around £10 million. If you bounce that out, the Alfa Romeo outlay from 1994 could, theoretically, run 30 cars in the championship now. But the money is not coming back. The manufacturers are gone. There's a constant call and hope from fans that a manufacturer will enter the BTCC with a team as a full factory entry. As things stand, there's not a chance. In both the BTCC and TCR, we do have manufacturer-backed entries. In the BTCC, 4 companies are actually involved in the Manufacturers or Constructors Championship: Ford, Toyota, Hyundai and BMW. But let's take BMW with West Surrey Racing. Those cars arrived in the championship in 2019 and are still used today. West Surrey Racing were given advanced information to prepare for the building of the cars. There's a commercial interest, there's some support in various ways, but the fact is that the drivers still have to bring a budget to get the drive. That's something that doesn't happen in pure manufacturer racing. As it stands, there are 2 salaried drivers on the BTCC grid, and even they bring their own sponsorship to boost their coffers. When Ford last raced as a factory team in 2000, their 3 Mondials reputedly had a tag of £4 million per car per season to run. That's around £8.5 million in today's money for one car. There were days when there was unlimited tyre development and weeks of testing for the leading teams. Nowadays, in-season testing is banned, and those pre-season tests on the continent have ceased since lockdown, mainly because that's more money for the drivers to race to pay for it. Over the last few seasons, the price for season drivers ranged from £350,000 at the back of the grid, or if a team is already a sponsor or two, to offset that. And it goes up to a supposed £700,000 plus to race those BMWs. The consensus among drivers who've spoken about costs to Touring Car magazine, drivers on the BTCC grid, and drivers who've entered negotiations and failed to find a seat, according to them, the average seat is £500,000 per season, plus a damage budget of around £50,000 per year, because drivers usually have to pay the funds to pay for their own repairs. Sometimes a manufacturer or sponsor will see value in giving a leg up to a leading driver, reducing the fee they need to race. At the other end of the financial scale, certainly not the talent scale, we'll have drivers like Aaron Taylor-Smith, who's a hell of a driver, but raising funding through a series of smaller sponsors and providing their commercial and hospitality returns is a full-time job in itself, away from the track and actually at the track. Drivers rarely climb the ladder into touring cars and to the best teams on talent alone. We are seeing a new financial model in Formula One that is eroding the need for peer drivers when they reach that category of the sport. But they need mega bucks to get them there. With touring cars, being the best driver in a championship underneath the series does not mean a thing, unless you bring a budget. We've seen that in 2024 with the immense talent of Dan Zelos having to chase funds to jump into touring car racing for the last 3 rounds of the year. As I've discussed in other videos and written articles in depth, the state of the UK car market right now means that cars eligible for entry into touring car racing are, for the most part, not the kind of cars that the UK public is buying in numbers that would attract a manufacturer. But it's not just that right now touring car racing is not going to return to the mega money days of the 1990s. We're not going to see a return to the days where drivers leave F1 and go tin top racing. Valtteri Bottas and Kevin Magnussen, they will not be the new Derek Warwick and Gianni Morbidelli hopping into the BTCC. Jenson Button won't repeat the famous Nigel Mansell guest appearances. Sorry folks, those glory days are gone. Once upon a time, 30 years ago, the BTCC was one of the most popular motor racing championships in the world. When those Alphas arrived, the championship was followed internationally in a way similar to how NASCAR is now. While the American Stock Car Series was just beginning to expand with satellite coverage around the world back then, most countries with motor racing culture were adapting their touring car championships to follow the British 2-litre rules, with what has since become known as Super Touring. But that's done and dusted now. And as much as the TCR rules have tried to replicate that, with cars that can race anywhere, the truth is that hasn't succeeded. But there's still a lot of misunderstanding why other things don't happen in touring car racing these days. But like everything else, it is simply all down to money. The majority of drivers in touring car racing achieve success thanks to their success off the track in making a commercial package work. That is a simple fact. The BTCC is now a championship that serves a purpose, is the leading domestic championship in the UK. That's not to say that it can't once again be transformed into a series with a bigger grab of national and international eyeballs, but the harsh reality is that those free-for-all days of the 90s, which nearly killed off the BTCC in the first couple of years of this century, remember, they will not return. If touring car racing is your thing, please consider liking this video and subscribing. If you want to read about touring car racing in the UK from journalists who are accredited in both the BTCC and TCR UK, head over to our website, touringcarmagazine.co.uk, to keep up with all the important issues of the day.